Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 652. 652. January the 4th, 2019. Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Boy, we've got a lot to cover today. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Well, Madam Botox, Nancy Pelosi, was sworn in as Speaker today. That was followed by the idiot Brad Sherman introducing articles of impeachment. Day one, articles of impeachment. Same guy who introduced them about, a year and a half ago? He got 60 votes. This will never get out of the House, just like the last attempt. But it just shows you exactly what we're dealing with here. But we believe that if you look at what Pelosi has been doing and others have been doing, there's a very good chance that they'll get more than 60 votes eventually for this. I still don't think it will really make it out of the House. But they'll probably end up getting 90 or 100 votes. And it will give them a reason to have some hearings and to give the media some talking points. Trump impeachment. This should hold them over until Uncle Bob delivers his interim report, where he'll provide them with some more information that they can use to expand their impeachment witch hunt. And this is what you can expect. Day one. Also, whenever a new speaker takes over, the speaker puts together a committee where they decide upon the new rules for the new Congress under the new speaker. And they're in the process right now of putting together these new rules. Many of them have been laid out by the last refuge on Conservative Treehouse. And mostly what they are all about is creating many pathways for Democrats to investigate without the knowledge of Republicans on these committees or the permission. Because in some of these committees, you need the ranking member of the minority party to sign on to some of this stuff so that you can do these investigations. This is something that Nunes ran into on the House Intelligence Committee. He could never get Adam Bug-Eyed Fool Schiff to sign on to, as the ranking minority member, certain things that Nunes wanted to do. And he was blocked. So what Pelosi and the Democrats are doing is changing the rules so that you don't have to worry about that ranking member. You can go ahead and launch these investigations even without telling the minority party or the ranking member that you're doing it. Secret investigations. And they're also creating rules which will allow them to have direct, close workings with the FBI and the DOJ. Essentially, creating a mini DOJ within the Democratic Congress. You see how this works? And of course, Nancy has already brought in this lawyer whose specialty would be to be the House counsel. And his job will be to lay out the legal framework and the path for impeachment. And they know that they're not going to really get the votes for impeachment. They know even if it went to the Senate, it would go nowhere. This is all about the 2020 election. Everything that's going to happen from today forward in the House of Representatives will all be totally politically motivated. This is the beginning of the Democrats' 2020 campaign. It started today with Madam Botox getting the gavel and Mr. Sherman reintroducing his same articles of impeachment he introduced a year and a half ago, which is primarily based on Trump firing Comey as being obstruction, which is ridiculous. The president is the executive branch. He can fire anybody for any reason he wants. And this case has been made over and over again. It's not even close. If it was close, Uncle Bob would have pursued it. And look at Comey. He's lied to Congress at least 4 times. He admits to signing off on a FISA warrant based on a dossier which he said himself was salacious and unverified. If there was any justice in this world, Comey would already be in jail, serving double life sentences. And the other reason, if you read through this, these impeachment articles, Trump put out mean tweets. That's right. He obstructed justice by firing Comey, and he put out mean tweets. It's a joke. But it's enough to give the Democrats fodder in the House, to give them a reason to have impeachment hearings, and to give the media something to talk about. And this is all part of the PR campaign. This is kicking off the Democrats' 2020 campaign. It starts with impeachment of Trump. That's all it is. It's all political. 100% political. They won't just be going after Trump. They'll be going after Trump and anyone related, associated, or supportive of him. And again, as I said, because they're changing the rules, they're not going to need any Republicans in the minority. They're not going to need the minority leader. They're not going to need anybody to move forward with these investigations, and they'll be able to conduct them, in fact, secretly with the new rules, if the new rules are passed, and I'm sure most of these will be. So they will be able to essentially conduct these investigations working with the DOJ and the FBI and God knows who else. And some of these ranking members, Devin Nunes, ranking member of the House Intel Committee, and other ranking members, Republicans, may not even be told that these investigations are happening or that witnesses are being interviewed or subpoenas are being sent out. They'll have nothing to say. Now, keep in mind, if the Republicans are fortunate enough to win back the House in 2020, they should keep the same rules and do the same thing. It's what they should have done. But we had Paul Ryan. Paul Big Ears Eddie Munster Ryan. Do you see what Paul Eddie Munster Ryan could have done? Do you see what he could have done? You see, the Democrats do it. They know what they can do, and they use every possible tool in the box. Big Ears Ryan did nothing. He did nothing. He did less than nothing. He did far more harm than good. Thank God he's gone. If there's any reason to celebrate, it's that Paul Ryan is gone. At least we understand Nancy Pelosi is the damn devil. And we know it. With Paul Ryan, he fooled a lot of people. Thank God he's gone. At least we know what we're dealing with. The devil we know. But there were 15 Democrats who voted for someone other than Pelosi or voted present. Voted for someone other than Pelosi or present. Did you know that Pelosi sent out a letter a couple weeks ago informing members that they would that of the options that they had for voting for Speaker, one of the options would not be no. She took away the option to vote no for her. Oh, by the way, when we have these elections for Speaker, you're not going to be able to vote no against me. You can only vote for me or another member. You can't vote no. Me or another member. And if you don't do that, your vote will go down as present. Two individuals' votes, two Democrats' votes went down as present. One actually said no into the microphone and the vote count. And the chair changed his vote to present. That's how they rig it. They rig it. The Democrats rig their own people. This is how they play. Can you imagine if we would have had someone who played like this? The perps would all be in jail. Spygate would be over. And we'd be moving forward. But no, because we had Big Ears Eddie Munster Ryan. Trump had a press conference today with the Border Patrol. And they, of course, came out and said, yeah, we need the wall. Very good. Maybe Trump watched my video. I keep saying, you've got to come out every day and have a presser every day. And every day, you need to point out 2 or 3 felonies committed by illegals against American citizens. Every day. Non-stop. Day after day after day. Show people the felonies being committed. That's how you win this PR fight. And get all $5.6 billion for the wall. And deal the Democrats a decisive defeat in this battle. And it's a PR battle. Never forget that. We had a Democratic freshman congresswoman sworn in on Jefferson's Quran. And one of the new rules that the Democrats are putting into play is that you can now wear headgear on the House floor. Headgear. Never been allowed to wear headgear before, but what they're really doing here, not that they think people want to come in wearing, a baseball cap or something like that. No, it's to give this one single Muslim Democratic member of Congress the ability to come in and be on the House floor in a hijab. So now she can wear her hijab when she's addressing us on the floor of the Congress. As despicable as that sounds. There you go. See how these people play? Paul Bryan knew all these rules too, by the way. What did I tell you, folks? We now know what Trey Gowdy is going to do now that he's left the Congress. He is going to work for a law firm down in South Carolina, which is a law and lobbying firm. A law and lobbying firm known as Nelson Mullins. He's going to work for Nelson Mullins as a lobbyist. He's going to make a lot of money. Trey Gowdy is going to make a lot of money lobbying for this law firm. There you go. Pelosi is going to be on board for the Medicare for All legislation, and they will begin hearings shortly. My oh my. My oh my. There is going to be a Build the Wall rally in Missouri on Saturday. It will be in Clayton, Missouri. If you're anywhere near Clayton, Missouri, and you want to go show your support for building the wall, then you might want to show up in Clayton, Missouri for the Build the Wall rally. Well done from the Show Me State. Of course, the Dems are also reintroducing this bill to protect Uncle Bob the Executioner. This is another bill they introduced earlier that didn't go anywhere, and this bill will also go nowhere. It's not going to go anywhere because once it makes it to the Senate, it will die. Might not even make it out of the House. Mueller, though, Uncle Bob the Executioner, he does need some protection. Oh, yes. He's going to be needing some protection, but it's not from Trump. It doesn't appear. And that's because Jerome Corsi's case can now go forward. The judge, this is Judge Leon, who we've heard a lot about. Judge Leon says the case can go forward. Corsi is suing Uncle Bob, or the DOJ, however you want to look at that, for $350 million for prosecutorial misconduct and illegal surveillance. And Judge Leon said it wasn't even a close call. Now, they were hoping, Clayman was hoping that Judge Leon would hear the case, because he's generally been pretty friendly in these types of cases. But although he said the case is pretty much a slam dunk and it can go forward, he is not going to hear the case. He's going to pass it on to another judge. So we don't know what judge is going to get this case, but we know some judge is going to get the case. It is going to move forward. And this could be very, very bad news if, in fact, and I hope this moves quickly, and if, in fact, Uncle Bob the Executioner, if Clayman does make the case, and Corsi does make the case, that there was prosecutorial misconduct, and that Uncle Bob engaged in illegal surveillance and harassment and things and such, that would pretty much be the end of the Mueller investigation. That would pretty much end it. He would have lost any moral credibility he would have. Not to mention, once the attorney for Papadopoulos and Carter Page and Michael Flynn see that Uncle Bob has just taken a body blow for prosecutorial misconduct and illegal surveillance, they are going to see a massive opening for them to jump into the game. And they will. They absolutely will. And the floodgates will collapse, and Uncle Bob will be having to shut things down really quickly, because he and his posse are going to need to lawyer up to defend themselves. And these are serious allegations. These are allegations that if, in fact, Clayman proves Corsi's case, that this could put Uncle Bob the Executioner and the Hillary donor posse in jail. And certainly ruin them, all their legal careers. So now we know, if you remember about 3 or 4 weeks ago, John Solomon was on Sean Hannity. And he said, I can't tell you exactly what this deal is, but he said, I'm telling you that in a couple of weeks or pretty soon you're going to learn that there was a piece of exculpatory evidence that regarding the Michael Flynn case that has been withheld. And it's been with the Defense Intelligence Agency. Now, whether or not Uncle Bob has known about this, we have to assume he does, but we don't know for sure at this time whether or not he knew about this exculpatory evidence. But Solomon likely learned about it because Charles Grassley was briefed on it. And once he was briefed on it, he was demanding that they release it, or at least ways give him a copy of it. Because although they didn't show him documents, he was briefed, verbally briefed, on the fact that there was this information that could be exculpatory evidence for Flynn. So now we know exactly what it was. And what it was is that prior to Michael Flynn taking that trip to Russia, where he was paid, what, $46,000 or $45,000, it was for that yearly or celebration for RT's Russian television network. And Michael Flynn, before being given... Now, keep in mind, Jill Stein was also there and sat at the same table with Putin. And so what we've learned is that before going, Michael Flynn did go to the intelligence community and say, hey, I've been offered to go to this RT dinner, and I think I'm going to accept. I'm going to get paid $45,000, and I'm going to give a speech. Just want you to know. At which point they said, well, thank you very much for alerting us to that. Listen, would you mind doing a little work for us on this deal? Maybe doing a little intelligence work for us? He's like, sure. And they said, okay, well, first, would you be willing to take a class to get some techniques for gaining information? And he said, sure. So he took the class. He briefed the intelligence community. And then when he came back from there, he debriefed them. Debriefed them. In other words, there was never any intent on Michael Flynn's part to engage in some secretive mission with the Russians or anything else. It was totally above board, and he had gone to the intelligence community and was in fact cooperating with them, in fact working with them, in fact getting information for them, which he gave them in a debriefing. Total exculpatory evidence that was held within the DIA. Now, whether or not that was known by Sally Yates, whether or not that was known by Comey or Loretta Lynch, or whether it was known by Uncle Bob, it's not clear right now exactly who all knew and did not know. But you can assume that that will be, certainly will be coming out soon. And again, if it turns out that Uncle Bob, the executioner, knew about this, and I don't know if this Judge Sullivan has seen this or not, but he's certainly reading about it in the paper today. I wonder if this is one of the documents he got. And maybe that explains his behavior in the most recent court hearing and why he put Michael Flynn's case off again for 3 months. But it gets even more interesting, you might say. We find out now that the person who made sure that Michael Flynn was seated at the same table as Putin, in fact sitting literally right next to Putin, the man who made sure of Flynn's position where he would be seated was... Would anyone like to take a guess? Who do you think made sure that Michael Flynn was sitting at the Putin table next to Putin? Take a wild guess. The fat man, Stefan Halper. Stefan Halper is the one who placed Michael Flynn right next to Putin at Putin's table at the RT celebration dinner. The same Stefan Halper, the same fat man who made sure that Michael Flynn was seated right next to this British woman, this British researcher who did work at the London Center, who actually was Russian, she's Russian, but she's a British citizen. It was also Halper who made sure that Michael Flynn was seated right next to her at the London Center in 2014. And he also reported that to American intelligence. So it's clear that this exculpatory evidence should completely clear Michael Flynn. And if in fact we find out that anyone in the DOJ or Uncle Bob or any of his people on his team knew about this exculpatory evidence, That is also criminal misconduct. But this certainly clears Flynn, and it certainly makes it perfectly clear at this point that someone really needs to sit down and have a talk with Mr. Halper. This son of a bitch was involved in everything. And this goes all the way back to 2014. Keep in mind who Michael Flynn was in the Obama administration. DIA. He had to know about the Benghazi. He had to know about the guns being run through Libya. And he probably wasn't happy about it. Maybe he was talking about it. The targeting of Michael Flynn happened long before Trump even announced he was running for president. That began back in 2014. I think that Flynn was a target primarily because of what he knew about the gun running operation in Libya, and the fact that he was probably opposed to it, and the fact that the Obama administration knew that he was going to be a problem, and so they had to destroy him. That's what it looks like. The Barr confirmation hearings, William Barr's confirmation hearings, are set to begin January 15th or 16th. Now, you can bet that Barr is going to be asked, based on comments he's made, he's going to be asked if he plans on appointing a special counsel to look into the DOJ or the FBI. And if he says yes, then they'll say he should have to recuse himself. If he says no, he's locked in, which means once he gets to be AG, he will not be able to do it because he will have already said in the hearings that he wouldn't. They're going to try to corner him and pigeonhole him. And they're going to be asking, Democrats will be asking him lots of questions about what his plans are for investigations into the DOJ, the FBI, the intel community. They're going to try to pigeonhole him and force him into recusal. Or berate him so bad on the issue that they present a lot of issues with maybe his credibility on the subject, so that if he does appoint a special counsel, they can say, see, it was a witch hunt. Trump put in Mr. Barr to conduct a witch hunt against Mueller and the FBI and the DOJ. Trump's a tyrant. You can bet that that's how that will be used in a very political way against Barr. He's a pretty smart guy. Let's see how he rolls. We're going to learn a lot about how this Spygate investigation is going to move forward after the Barr hearings, because he is going to be asked how he is going to handle the continuing investigation with Uncle Bob the Executioner. He is going to be asked if he has intentions on investigating the DOJ, the FBI, the intel community, Spygate, or any of this type of stuff. He's going to be asked about all that, all for the purpose of pigeonholing him or forcing him, just like Sessions, into recusal. Jerry Nadler is an asshole, but you already knew that. He is going to subpoena Attorney General Whittaker. Well, you know, what Whittaker should do is the exact same thing that Rodenstein did. When Rodenstein was supposed to testify in front of Congress because of the 25th Amendment, wearing a wire type thing, what did Rodenstein do? Nothing. Pound sand. That's exactly what Whittaker should tell Nadler. Screw you. I'm the Attorney General. It's all classified. I can't talk about it. Thanks. Bye. Well, it appears that Elizabeth Warren hasn't wasted any time starting her campaign for president. And you're going to like this one. You are going to like this. So she started her campaign where most people do, in Iowa. So she shows up in this town called Storm Lake, Iowa. Storm Lake, Iowa. Do you know what the two neighboring towns are? One to the east and one to the west of Storm Lake, Iowa. What town is immediately to the east and immediately to the west that border Storm Lake, Iowa? Well, the two towns are Cherokee and Pocahontas. Oh, God. Oh my God. Oh man. This is a true story. This is not from The Onion. This is legit. I looked at the map. I thought it was a joke. It's not. Look at the map. Look at the map. Eric Tucker of the AP, Associated Press, says that he spoke with the former Attorney General Ed Meese. And Meese says, and I believe he was the Attorney General under Reagan, Meese says that he had breakfast with Mr. Whittaker, the acting AG. And he says that Whittaker told him while they were having breakfast that Huber is investigating various FBI-related concerns raised last year by GOP lawmakers, including improper surveillance. CNN picked up this story off the AP, and they did a story as well on CNN.com. So that's interesting. Whittaker having breakfast with old Ed Meese, the old Reaganite, and he's a straight shooter. And Meese is saying, yeah, Whittaker said that Huber is investigating. That's interesting. Jim Jordan continues to urge the president to declassify, right along with me and everyone else. And in that message, he said, hey, Mr. President, there's a poll out there that shows 59% of America wants declassification. 59% of the people want that declassified. Well, the progressive commies are already causing Madam Botox a lot of problems. Day one. As I mentioned to you earlier, when you have a new Congress and a new speaker, they get to modify the rules and lay out the rules for the next Congress. But the trick here is that they cannot begin to conduct business until there has been a vote that results in passage for the new rule changes. The first thing the speaker must do is lay out the new rules. Then there must be a vote. And once the rules changes are passed and approved, then that Congress can begin their work. They can't begin their work until they've established the new rules and had a vote that results in affirming the new rules, passing them. Then they can start doing business. Well, it appears that there's a lot of these progressive commies who are opposed to several things in the rules, and it may be they, with their 95 votes, that block this initial vote on the rule changes, which could throw a wrench into Nancy's spokes. So the left-wing commies, as I call the wild herd of cats, they're already causing her a lot of problems. It's only going to get worse. And we now have solid information proving that there were illegals who were involved in the ballot harvesting operations in California. And we know that there's as many as 29 seats that may have been turned in the 2018 midterms because of ballot harvesting. Ballot harvesting. So not only were they ballot harvesting, they were using illegals to go knock on the doors and harvest the ballots. Can't beat that scam, especially when you get away with it. How about that? Unbelievable. So, I have a few minutes left, and again, I want to get back to the mystery envelope at the Bush funeral. A lot of good comments in the comments section. But where I left off at the end of yesterday's video is I was saying that when I look at how quickly Jeb Bush reacted, I can only conclude that he did not have time to read even a sentence or digest it. He gave a look and then a quick double take. Whatever he looked at was not a sentence. I don't think George Bush was drawing pictures, maybe, but whatever that was, it's something he could process very, very quickly. And I said that these people use a lot of codes, because code allows them to use a phrase or a word or something, or an acronym or something that only they know. So they can discuss something and use a particular phrase or code word. For instance, when Nixon wanted to talk about the Kennedy assassination, his code word was that Bay of Pigs thing. When he wanted to talk about the Bush family and how they were trying to railroad him back in the day, in fact, he blames them for him being impeached. He thinks he was set up by the Bushes. He referred to them as the East Coast Republicans. So a lot of these politicians, plus they have code words, they have code names, they have various types of codes that they use so that they can communicate, they can talk amongst themselves, and they can just use phrases or words but that mean a lot of things that no one else would know. Just one word can lay out an entire operation or an entire concept of something that they all understand. But it can be stated with just one word, one phrase, or an acronym or something like that. And I believe it's more likely than anything at this point, based on how quickly Jeb was able to look at that, process it, deal with it, and react to it. It all happened in a matter of seconds. No time to read a lot of things, and I don't think George Bush was necessarily sitting over there drawing some sort of a picture. Maybe, but I think probably something there was code, and what these people were seeing in these envelopes was some sort of a coded message, some sort of acronym or some sort of something that they could read that didn't take them very long, especially in the case of Jeb Bush. It didn't take them very long to look at it, read it, and figure out very quickly something that was, very important and very troubling. Yes, very troubling. They're also looking, Jeb looks at the coffin, he takes his hand off his heart, and he looks at the coffin. Then he looks over more toward Bush, or toward Trump. And he's almost got the look of disbelief on his face. And I'm wondering if there wasn't something in that coded message that was suggesting that Poppy Bush's body was not in the casket. Maybe the note meant something that maybe Poppy was cremated. Maybe Poppy Bush decided to be cremated and didn't tell anybody. And George didn't want to say anything until the last minute for some reason. Maybe that's the message he sent. He said, hey, Poppy's not actually here. He's in a jar back on my mantle. We cremated him this morning. He's not in the casket. So maybe it has something to do with the fact that Bush's body was not actually in the casket. That's just a thought. I don't know that. Just an opinion. I also noticed the very cold response between Trump and Melania when they came to sit down. Pence and his wife didn't even hardly make eye contact with the Trumps. Almost like, and we saw Pence yucking it up a lot with the Right Reverend Clinton earlier and all the other people. So, again, I don't trust Pence. I think he's, working for the other team, I guess you'd say. Don't trust Pence. But very interesting to see Trump and Melania and get such a cold response from the Pences. They didn't even recognize each other. They didn't hardly look at each other at all. I mean, it's very unusual. And of course, they got an envelope. There's also this rumor going around. I don't know if it's true, but it's very interesting if it is true. And that is that no one seems to have noticed the presence of any of the Kennedy clan there at the Bush funeral. No Kennedys. There's a lot of Kennedys. And like Caroline and some of those, they generally wouldn't miss something like that. Is it possible that there were no Kennedys there? I mean, there's still a lot of Kennedys running around. Most of them still very political. No Kennedys at the funeral. I wonder if that's true. And if that is true, that's very, very unusual, because it's just my guess that the Kennedys, the Kennedy family probably has a pretty damn good idea who was behind the murder of JFK and RFK. And I think we know that Poppy Bush played an instrumental role in the assassination of JFK.